Hello and welcome to MySecurityTV and our Tech and Sec Weekly. This is our Tuesday afternoon edition, and today we're joined by CEOs with Southern Launch being first up, and they have launch approval there in South Australia. So we have Lloyd Damp, the founder and CEO of Southern Launch, and they have got space launch approval for the Koonibba Test Range in South Australia. Lloyd, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure.
And I saw you smiling in the background. Geez, you look like your photo.
Ever since we got this approval, I just can't stop smiling.
There you go. So look, talk us through, because I think we last spoke in December when we sort of did our space industry insights interviews. Yeah, where have you been? And this obviously been a major focus for you since then and well before.
Yeah, so this has been the culmination of a hang of a lot of work to get to this point. But it's now done. The range is licensed, and it now means that we can do Australia's first civilian space launches from the site. So it's all very, very exciting.
Well, I suppose the first question is when is it likely to kick off?
We're currently working with a couple of manufacturers to test out either their rocket systems or to test out potential payloads out at Koonibba. The key one is just trying to align everything. At the moment, international travel is quite restricted, so trying to get people payloads and other components into the country is a bit challenging, but hopefully before the end of this calendar year, we will see a space launch happening in Australia.
Right, with a payload, so straight into it.
Yep, might as well.
So you've pretty much completed all your tests then, or how's that going to work, or a few more tests to go?
Well, so Koonibba is a suborbital test range, so that's where the rockets go out into space and then fall back under parachute into the uninhabited national parks to the north of the site. So that's what we'll be testing, sending rockets out there, out into space, and collecting the components afterwards. The orbital site is down, is still under development, down at or south of Port Lincoln, and that's where the rockets are intended to go out into polar and sun-synchronous orbits. So both types of rockets will carry payloads. Some will carry, or the Koonibba-style rockets will carry more payloads to validate equipment before they potentially go into orbit. So.
Got it. And how many what type of payloads will you be sort of putting up, and how much of that is Australian as well, or is you kind of be launching as a service type model?
Well, our first customer on our first two launches last year was an Australian company, and at the moment it looks like it'll be another 2 Australian payloads up in the first couple of launches for this calendar year out at Koonibba. The majority of those payloads are all around Internet of Things connectivity style tests. So very, very exciting to see Australia's industry develop around those core capabilities. So yeah.
Well, maybe just talk us through the license and who issues the license and that process. I take it it's like going to get a driver's license, that type of thing?
Very, very easy. Very, very, very simple. I was thinking about the statistics on the weekend. So Australia's had space launch acts and the likes for decades. Yet we're the first company to ever be able to satisfy the regulatory office that we can perform safe launches from Australian territory. So it's been a very interesting journey to get to this point, to understand what a space regulator requires from safety, security, design requirements. Then it's all about the people who operate the facility. And interestingly, because it is a commercial operation, you are subject to a broad range of liability considerations and other aspects that you wouldn't be exposed to if this was just a hobby rocket environment, for example. So,
well, excuse my ignorance too. Who's the authority? Is it CASA or ACMA, or there's a whole bunch, I imagine, or is it multiple?
at the very top is the space agency. So they're the ones who hand you the piece of paper. I will say it's actually quite a boring piece of paper.
After all, yeah.
There's no gold embossing around the edges, or
That's government for you, though, isn't it? Yeah.
thumbprint in the bottom left-hand corner. No. But underneath that, we, the airspace up to 100 kilometers is still actually governed or regulated by CASA. The space agency goes above 100 kilometers. We work with the South Australian Police, the Country Fire Service, the ambulance service, all the Aboriginal communities in the area, the local councils. The list just goes on and on and on, and bringing them all together to ensure that as a whole, the space launch or any space launch that gets undertaken from that site is done safely, efficiently, as possible. So it's quite an interesting process. So.
Well, maybe talk us through Koonibba and the community there as well. There's a bit of an opportunity there for First Nations as well. In fact, that's the headline of the release, is Australia's first people to lead Australia back to the stars. I liked it.
I can't claim that's up to Siobhan and other people in our media department. I'm not allowed anywhere near shape colours in this company. So
colourblind, right?
Yeah. No, it's really exciting. So we started the whole relationship with the Koonibba community, discussing potential opportunities for them. Now, for people's awareness more broad or internationally, the far west coast of South Australia is very desolate. And so there's limited opportunities for communities to get what we call self-determination. Right? Very little employment, very little engagement within the community to develop themselves or be entrepreneurial and the likes, because there's just not enough people.
Yeah.
So from the get-go, we said, all right, wherever possible and whenever possible, we will employ local community members to perform or help us perform safe rocket launches. That's now started to expand, where not only have we provided or organized training for community members to upskill and provide support services to us, but the foundational skills they're then able to provide into the Ceduna local area and get employment that way. What we also started to do is we were approached by the community saying, hey, we actually want to develop an astronomical capability, so an on-site observatory to help educate tourists and other people. So we said, sure, we will help you develop the business case, develop the infrastructure, organize training as needed, and really help the community get that continual flow of people and income into the community, as well as the story of their relationship with the stars out into the broader Australian base. So,
That's a great story, Lloyd, and I'm aware First Nations had a lot to do with the stars. They were very observant in terms of what they did, and it's a story hardly told with that as well. So that's a great story, particularly here in Australia, and that's the Koonibba Community Aboriginal Corporation. And did they hold the license? Am I reading that right?
No, so we hold the license, but it's on their land. So we work very, very closely with them, and we're currently actually developing a more than just a collaborative agreement with them, because we understand that any future that we have has to be in partnership with them. So yes.
Now, has any updates in terms of the business itself? You must be sort of gearing up. And in terms of even the payloads, how much forward are you kind of selling? It's an interesting business model. It's a bit like the data centers some way, where you have to, before you build it, you've got to sell it.
Yeah, yes. No, so we're currently looking at launch contracts for the end of this calendar year even. So just trying to line everything up through the year to not only have the customers, but also start to explore what the future iterations of infrastructure looks like. So with the community working out what a more permanent launch pad looks like, and understanding what that then offers our potential customers. So that's all getting very exciting.
Very good. Well, look, if there's no others, I think it's great just to have you on, and we'll refer back to our December interview as well. I suppose my last question is, what sort of any change in your partners and the ecosystem? There's been a few things from federal government with the space agency in South Australia seems to be trying to take the lead with this as well. Sort of any updates there, and any sort of commentaries or observations on how, apart from it being exciting for you and Southern Launch, just generally in the industry?
No, it's really good to see that South Australian companies or satellite companies are starting to select, likewise Australian manufacturers for components, as well as potential launch services and the likes. It sets a really good precedent moving forward, and especially as space, I'll say, matures across Australia. We need to start seeing less of these factional state-on-state type discussions, but more understanding how the different areas or the different industries across our nation can come together to provide a resilient industry foundational capability, and then start to tie that in globally as we attract international players into this market. So no, I'm really excited by what I'm seeing. The opening of I'll call it key infrastructure capabilities. It doesn't matter if they're in South Australia, they're in Victoria, New South Wales. It doesn't actually matter, so long as we can start taking those steps up that capability chain, because you're not going to have one site that does everything, and in 2 or 3 years' time, you will see an upgraded version of a, say, mission control center potentially in New South Wales or in Tasmania. That doesn't matter, but we're starting to see those building blocks come online, which I think is really good. So
wonderful. Well, look, it's great to reach out to you again. Appreciate your time and an update. Just the last couple of weeks, we've had the Starshot leader from DSTO. We had Chris Flaherty and a couple of others as well. So we do now have our space and defence playlist on YouTube, and this is your second shot. So thank you very much, Lloyd. Appreciate your time.
No, pleasure, Chris, and looking forward to sharing more details of actual launches in the near, not too distant future, hopefully.
Very good. If you want to read more, it's spaceanddefence.io is our channel for space and defence, and otherwise you can check out Lloyd, and it's southernlaunch.com, I take it?
Southernlaunch.space.
Ah, beautiful, even better. Thank you very much, Lloyd. I'll let you go. Enjoy your day.
You too. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye. And just to finish off today with our report of the day, the CSIS has just released their space threat assessment for 2021. Makes some interesting reading, and I thought I'd just put this as a takeaway in terms of what to look out for, particularly for the next 12 months or so. While China continues to make progress in developing counter-space weapons, its focus appears to be shifting to integrating these capabilities into its forces and operational plans. A key issue to watch over the coming year is China's overall investment in space-related research and development, and the development of potentially dual-use space capabilities, such as its tentacle space debris cleanup robot. From an operational perspective, a key development to track is the progress China makes integrating its electronic counter-space capabilities, such as jamming and spoofing, into its irregular warfare forces and tactics. In terms of norms of behaviour in space, a key indicator to watch is the behaviour of China's SJ-17 Geo Inspector satellite. While SJ-17 appears to have focused on inspecting other Chinese satellites so far, using this satellite to inspect other nations' satellites in GEO would mark an important shift in its use that could have broader repercussions. Russia is perhaps the most likely nation to conduct additional counter-space testing and deployment over the coming years. So watch out for that SJ-17 coming up to other satellites by other nations. Interesting. So look, grab your copy. We will be covering off on why 5G matters on Friday, and looking forward to that. And otherwise, you can check out our merchandise shop. So thank you very much for joining us on Tech and Sec Weekly. We'll be back Friday morning at 10 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.